Well, good morning, my YouTube friends. It's Tuesday morning. I depart today for Windham, Minnesota. My left knee is giving me all kinds of issues. It has been my right knee that locks up, but for some reason, my left knee is just horrible. So luckily I had Ruby's old leash, her leather leash. I have it wrapped around there. I had an ace bandage around here for my ribs last fall. I can't find it. So I had to do something to brace this knee so I can walk and get the car hooked up. But I wanted to give you a little more background on my great-great-grandpa, Ole. He, after fighting the Civil War, he did all that I was saying. He raised his family. But in his elderly years, he became quite senile. He was probably experienced what we call today PTSD, or post-traumatic stress syndrome, of being in a war. Imagine the kind of things he had to do. I'm not sure what regiment he was even in, or if he actually killed people or seen dead bodies, but it was a lot more gross back then. A lot of hand-to-hand combat with your brothers, bayonets through the chest, heads getting lopped off in front of you. Not just a quick little bullet between the eyes and the guy falls over. You get to see the blood and guts come out of your brother. So he in his later years, they made, kind of a fun time about him. But on Sundays, he would put his Civil War uniform on and march around the town square of Windham, Minnesota to guard the church from the Southern troops. So the church services wouldn't be disturbed on Sunday. He was still worried, or had visions, that the Southern troops were going to come up and raid Minnesota or into the north and try to resurgency. So they made fun of it back then. I'm going to see if there's records of that in town, of him doing that. That's been a family story for years. My brother told me about it, about Ole marching around the town square, guarding Windham in his Civil War uniform, holding his musket. I believe he had his old Civil War musket too, with the bayonet on it. They just made fun of him, and that's Ole out there on Sunday, guarding our town. But nowadays it would be identified as PTSD. I'm sure it would. The poor guy, I'm sure being a tough dude, still, you see your brothers get decapitated in front of you, or you got it yourself, have to ram your bayonet right through, a guy that looks just like, right down the road from you. He lived right down the road from you, basically. He's your neighbor. You had to run your bayonet right through his gut and see his stomach spill out in front of you, and everything he had for dinner that day, and hear him on the ground gurgling and dying, saying, "I'm dead." Yet, Ole was performing his duty. He was fighting the war. He may have to do things like that. So who knows what kind of... I don't know any stories of how Ole fought, or what kind of war or battles he was in, or if he was just up here towards the north, or part of Fort Snelling area, or in Minneapolis. I don't know. I don't know any of that history. I'm going into Windham, like I was saying, kind of winging it. But I do want to find if there's any history of Ole marching around the streets with what we would call PTSD nowadays. Have a good Tuesday, my YouTube friends. I have to manage to hook up here. I'm going to have a late checkout. They won't mind here at Shelby. It's only a 3.5-hour drive, and I'm all checked in up at the hotel. Excuse me, my coffee. I'm having another cup of coffee this morning and trying to work my knee out. Oh, my old body's falling apart. I'm sure glad I didn't continue in martial arts. Mr. Murata wanted me to continue in the ring, and so I don't know what kind of shape I'd be in now. But you guys have a good Tuesday. I'll be hooking the car up here in a little bit. Probably depart out of here 12 or 1 o'clock, maybe 1:30. Be up at the hotel maybe by 5 or 6. I'm going to take my time driving. It's a back road drive. I drive 8 miles down the Interstate 80 then turn north in Avica and go up back roads all the way to Windham. It's going to be a pleasant drive, 189 miles, but a pleasant back road drive. I'll probably stop maybe 90 miles, have some lunch, find some park I can park Molly in, and then just be careful with my turns so I don't gotta take her off there like I had to back in Vegas. And I'm not packing no cars in the front seat. Poor Betsy, that was learning the hard way. But you guys have a good Tuesday, and we'll see you in Windham.